Where are you from?
I'm originally from Laplace, Louisiana.
Okay. And what was it like growing up in Laplace?
To be honest, my experience was that it was very, very family-oriented, community-oriented, and it was fun. My experience was fun. The neighborhood that I stayed in, my mom used to be the mom that like all the kids in the neighborhood used to come to our house. I had tons of parties and slumber parties when I was young. So I would say like some of the best years for me were actually like my elementary years, lots of parties, sleepovers, get-togethers, that type of thing.
Did you ever go down to New Orleans? Isn't Laplace pretty close to New Orleans?
Yeah, it's like 30 minutes. We would go because we had friends of the family, and then like at one point my dad he's always been a minister, but at one point he was a pastor. So he had a lot of like pastor friends, and we used to go like visit churches out there and stuff too. Yeah. So, yeah.
Do you come from a creative family?
I feel like I do come from a creative family. Like when I really think about it in the grand scheme of things, definitely.
Who's the creative person around or people?
Are you talking about like in my immediate family or just in my family?
It could be immediate family or your family.
Okay, so in my family, we have like, so a person I'm thinking of in particular, like she was extremely smart, but then you could tell she was creative because of like her assignments that she would do like in her classes and stuff, like art assignments and stuff, or even if it was just like a regular assignment, like she would find a way to like incorporate something like creative or artistic into it all the time. We have like people that are into fashion. We have people that are into music. Myself, I like music a lot, but like as far as like what I'm pursuing, I'm into like fashion, and I'm not pursuing fashion, I'm pursuing modeling and acting. But because I'm pursuing modeling, I'm like, I'm just into like fashion, but also I just really love like aesthetics. Like I see everything, like the world around me, literally everything, I see it as art. So I come from a cooking family. I find that to be a very creative thing. Like it's literally an art form. And my family, they cook a lot. Like my dad cooks really good. I always wanted him to open up a restaurant. And I think that's where I get it from. And so it's just like when I'm preparing my meals, it's like it's another form of art for me. You know what I'm saying? Like I know how to draw, I know how to paint, but then that's like another form of art.
So at what point did you become interested in acting, or did modeling come before acting, or how did that happen?
Well, the acting, I always just had like a natural inclination, like just from being like really young and just being like when we would do like, so like the little home videos, like when your parents like taping you or whatever, and you just the kids playing, but we would be like in the camera, and I would want like my cousins and my friends to like do a performance. Like it would always be, we had to do some kind of performance, and I would always want to just be like in the camera, like pushing people out the camera, like just crazy. Like it was just like me and the camera, we had something going on, like ever since I was
Right. And so so outside of like, doing the playful stuff at home, did you enter into like a theater program, or where did you go from there?
Yeah, so the first like theater program I was introduced to was, I had went to NOCA. I forgot how I found out about it, but I found out about it. I did the audition, I got in, and that was kind of like my first introduction to that. I did take like a theater class or two when I was in high school, but it wasn't like a very, prevalent part of the curriculum. But yeah, once I got to NOCA, that was like my first real formal introduction to theater, and I enjoyed my experience a lot. And my teachers, they used to encourage me they used to be like, you should continue this journey. Like, you should just keep pursuing this. Like, we think this is like your thing, And so I took that, I ran with it. I always wanted to go to most people there want to go to Juilliard or whatever, but For me, like when it was time to go to college, I was extremely close to like my family and stuff, and I just had this attachment. So I didn't want to like go so far away like from my family. So I was like, no, I'm gonna just go somewhere out here. So I ended up just I started at Loyola, and then I transferred to Dillard. After a while, I just felt like I needed just like a reset and just like a fresh environment, and just something to kind of like reignite like my passion for that part of my journey. And so I ended up transferring to UL. I stayed there for 2 years, and then I transferred back to Dillard, and that's where I finished. And I'm glad I went back, because that is where I got the Denzel Washington scholarship or whatever. And I was able to like finish my last year and a half of college on a full ride with that scholarship, and just really focus on like my craft. So
That's amazing. Can you talk a little bit about the Denzel Washington Scholarship and like who it's awarded to?
So I know that it's awarded to maybe like, I could be wrong, but I want to say it's only, I don't want to give a number because then I may be giving the wrong number, but I do know that it's only awarded to like a select few individuals each year. And I know that you have to have, it's not just about like, you know, whoever is over the theater department deciding who is talented enough, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not just the talent aspect. So it's not like just how well your theater audition was and how well your theater performance, you know, continues to be and progresses, but it's also your GPA. So it's like I can tell he is also big on education. Like, he also stresses like, stay on top of your education, you know? Like, because knowledge is power. And the more that you know, like the more knowledgeable you are, the better of an actor you will actually be. So like the more life experience that you have and the more knowledge you have, the better of an actor you'll be, because you can bring all of that to your craft.
And so what prompted you to move from New Orleans, where you graduated college, to Atlanta now? I just started to feel like I wanted kind of like a similar feeling. It was very similar to the feeling I had when I transferred colleges. I just felt like I needed just like a fresh environment to just kind of like reignite this part of my journey. So like for me, this part of my journey that I'm on, like my career has not kick-started yet. You know, like I have a lot of connections. I have pretty much all that I would need to like, you know, get my feet wet and even like step through the door, but like my career has not like been kickstarted yet. And I was just like observing, and I was thinking, I was like, okay, I'm here. I could go to LA or I could go to New York. But my thing with LA has always been, which this doesn't matter, but for me personally, it's always been that the market is so saturated. And I personally felt like in a slightly smaller market, I can perhaps sort of build up like, you know, my resume, my credentials, and kind of like make a name for myself before going off into such a large market where there's so many like, you know, tens of thousands or how many, you know, hundreds of thousands of people auditioning and trying to do exactly what you're doing, you know what I'm saying? Because I feel like this industry is all about like setting yourself apart, because there's so many trying to do the same thing. So I just feel like going to a slightly smaller market would help me with that. Yeah. Have you faced any challenges on your journey?
I have. I would say, again, like knowledge is power. So starting out, just simply not knowing certain things, you know, like not knowing, like, okay, knowing that I had to get an agent, but not knowing like who was who, you know what I'm saying? Like not knowing like who is the best agent for me, you know what I'm saying? Or how to go about finding the best agent for me and like securing, you know, a spot with that representation. So that was a challenge, and that's something that, you know, as you go along, you have to dig, you have to network, you have to do research, and you have to find out for yourself, you know, who is who. Like it's really important to know like who is who in the industry. I didn't know that at first. That's a whole nother thing. Like it can get complex, you know what I'm saying? So it's like with this project, for example, like who is the director, who are the writers, like who is the team, who are the actors, who is their representation, like just stuff like that. So I I'm not even gonna really look at it as a challenge though. I'm gonna just look at it as like that's just a part of the process. Like you have to learn that that's information that you have to be keen on. Like if this is something you want to do, like as you go along.
Yeah.
So yeah.
How do you sort of juggle pursuing basically like two different art forms, so modeling and then acting?
While they're different, they are actually alike. So for me, like, modeling, I think what makes me a great model too is the fact that I'm an actress. And so like models, like a lot of models, it's like they have to tap into that without necessarily having the knowledge or experience of it. They have to find it. But for me, it's like I have it, you know what I'm saying? And it's like I bring that, to my modeling, because it's like you are entering another world because you're like taking on another persona and you are portraying a character in a way, you know what I'm saying, when you model. And I just think that adds much more like depth and dimension to it. Like it just makes it more interesting, like just like a photo. Like it just makes it more interesting if I'm seeing someone not only just like selling the product or the outfit, but who brought like a whole nother element to that. Yeah. So I like it like that.
Do you like runway or print?
I like runway. I like runway a lot. I also like print. I like both.
What do you prefer?
Well, I feel like runway on a very, very high professional level, there can be a lot of things that are probably not so like fun or favorable about it, because it's just like the high heels, the scrambling probably like behind the scenes to change and things like that. Like it's definitely a job. Like it's probably rewarding for people who really enjoy it, but it's definitely a job. Print to me is more lax. I'm not, working my feet or my calves. I'm not stressing them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Or maybe I am, but not in that way, because I'm sitting down, or maybe I'm standing up, but I get to move, you know what I'm saying, to where I'm comfortable, even though I'm moving in other positions to where I'm like not as comfortable. But I feel like it's just a little bit more lax though. It's not like this upbeat like pressure. It depends, it can vary from photo shoot to photo shoot, of course. But just in the grand scheme of things, I just feel like print is a little bit more laid back than runway. And I feel like you can kind of relax into what you're doing a little bit better than runway. Yeah. It's really no relaxing. It's like runway is like the show is on. It's showtime, and the show must go on. Yeah. So.
And then you also have that like adrenaline rush, like trying to get everything together.
Yeah. It's live, like you're in front of an audience, like, So there's that element.
Yeah. So what's your ultimate aspiration with your acting and modeling and all of your creative?
For me personally, I've discovered that building a brand, building a brand, because I think that if you're able to build a brand, then you've created a foundation for yourself to where, you can ultimately build a legacy for yourself, because a brand, that's something that you can pass on, you can pass down to your children and so on and so forth. So I would say like building a brand, and like I said earlier, like making a name for myself, that's kind of the same thing as building a brand. It's like when people like see that name or hear that name, it's like they recognize it. And not only do they recognize it, but they like associate it with a certain feeling, that's positive and that's like, empowering. So that, and then I would say like, it all goes back to building a brand, because for me, being able to make a living out of my craft, like out of what I do, and not have to like have this gig or that gig to support it, or be trying to find like this flexible job or that flexible job to like work around it or support it. But for that to actually be like my full source of income, for me, that would be a great accomplishment. I would love to do that. And for me to be able to live off of it comfortably, like not to be struggling, like, okay, from acting gig to acting gig or modeling, like, no, like not only am I, constantly booked up, and I'm living off of it. I get a regular paycheck, I get royalties, I get residuals, whatever, I get all of that. But I also have a brand, so it's like I'm always getting deals. I'm always working, and this is my income, and it's something that is not ever gonna run out. It'll always be here because this is a brand. Like, that's what I want for myself.
What gives you that sort of entrepreneurial fire?
I guess the fact that I'm just that passionate about it, that I want everything that I do to kind of like revolve around it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm. And that where did that huge inspiration come from for the acting?
Maybe it came from God. I really don't know, but it's just like, it's something that I've always wanted to do. It's just like something that I was always drawn towards since I was like. Since I was like at an age to where like I couldn't even like grasp the concept of like what I'm doing, like the profession. Like, I felt like, I was like drawn to it. I was always pulled in that direction. So
do you have any like dream collabs or actors or actresses that you like to work with?
Yeah, so it's funny because I never really thought that social media would kind of like start to play a role in what I do, but it does, because it gives me like a platform, it gives me a voice, it gives me the opportunity to like collaborate with artists, and it's kind of like right at your fingertips type of thing. So like I never really thought that this would be a thing, but like with the modeling, like I know for sure that I've grown to love like Savage X Finney. And so for me, like a dream collab would be to like literally collaborate with Savage X Finney. Like, I've kind of grown my platform a little bit like on my social media, but I love a lot of things about the brand. Like, it's just like the diversity of it, it's the inclusiveness of it. We never really had that, you know what I'm saying? Especially like Black women. Like, it's hard for us to find like, beauty brands and things in general, like especially on a large scale, that represent that, and that stand for that, and that kind of give us a chance, you know what I'm saying, to just shine, to speak, whatever it may be. And I feel like Savage X Finney does that really well. But not only does it do that for Black women, but it does it for all women, so I really like that. But yeah, as far as the acting, okay, so a colleague of mine, we didn't graduate in the same year, but we did go to Dillard together, and I do remember us taking classes together, and we're cool to this day. He was recently in a project with Samuel L. Jackson, and it recently premiered, like it's new, it's a recent project, and I watched it. And so I would say like a dream collab for me would be to collaborate with any seasoned, veteran actor that's been in the game for a long time, like just to be on the same set with them. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't even have to be in the same scene. If we do, that's great. Because I know he had a couple scenes with him that was cool. But like, just to be in the same room with them, to be able to like observe them in 3D, and just see how they interact, see how they speak, and just soak up whatever it is that they may have to offer at that moment in time. Like, I think that would be honestly would be a dream come true for me. So that's a dream collab. It doesn't really matter who it is. It doesn't matter if it's like, because I have a couple favorites. Like, I love Samuel L. Jackson, but I love Denzel Washington. I love Idris Elba. Like, it's a couple, you know what I'm saying? So any one of those guys, and I would be
ready to go. For someone watching this who aspires to do what you do, what piece of advice would you have for them?
Who aspires to do what I do, I would say probably don't ever wait for like anything outside of you that's related to what you want to do to like make you feel like you're successful or like you've made it, or like you are confident. You know what I'm saying? Like you've earned, you know, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't ever look for that, like, outside. Like, don't look for it, like, in the people. Like, even the people that you look up to and you aspire, because it's like, we're all equal. You know what I'm saying? In God's eyes. Like, I was listening to, like, it was like a video today. It was, like, on social media. And it was like an acting page. And this woman was saying that, she's like, you know, the only difference between me and Beyonce is, you know, she has a lot of help, a lot of resources, a lot of this, a lot of that. But she basically was just making the point that, like, anybody can do anything that they put their mind to. And so don't ever look for, like, outside sources of, like, validation or anything to make you believe that about yourself. Like, always believe that about yourself. Like, always know that about yourself. Like, whatever you want to do, you can do it. Doesn't really matter. You know, so you have to just always have, like, just that inner knowing and, like, that inner confidence, like, even when you're met with, like, rejection, because it's just like, you know, people, they don't really have control over your destiny. You have control over your destiny. They play, like, different roles in it, but they don't ultimately, like, have control over it. So just know that.